All right, guys, here we go. We are now, turn it sideways. We are now going into chapter 8, Food Safety Management Systems. It starts on 8:1. And here we go. This chapter, hello, Mr. Nice. This chapter, although it's actually pretty short in the book, it's maybe, hey Chris, it's maybe 11 pages. This is the one, oh, I see those hearts. This is the one that is going to take a little bit of time. So definitely if you have questions, again, you see where you can type in questions at. Please ask as many questions as you want. And if you just tap on the screen, for those that weren't in the first one, if you tap on the screen, little hearts come up. That's how I know that you're agreeing with me or you're saying okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, in the book, we are on 8:1. So let's go ahead and get this going off. All right, our objectives. First of all, I just uploaded chapter 7 video to YouTube. So if you look up chapter 7 servsafe BHS on YouTube, my video will come up. It's about 20 minutes. It should be the same amount for this one. Again, just if you got questions, go ahead and throw them out there. All right, so our objectives, we're going to talk about food safety management systems, active managerial control, and then the HACCP plans, our hazard analysis critical control point plan. So let's get started. All right, food safety management systems. That is a group of practices and procedures intended to prevent foodborne illnesses. So that's pretty much giving you the definition. They actively control the risks and hazards throughout the flow of food. And remember, we said the flow of food is how food comes in and out of the restaurants. We are now going on to page 8.2, and it looks like that. So here we go. All right, these are the foundations for food safety management systems. So when we think about food safety management systems, I'm going to read everything and then we'll go over each one. We have personal hygiene programs. These are all programs or policies that every restaurant needs to have in place. So of course, personal hygiene programs, food safety training programs. We need to have supplier selection and specification programs, and quality control assurance programs. We need to have cleaning and sanitation programs, facility design, equipment maintenance programs, and standard operating procedures or SOPs, and pest control programs. That's really important as well. I don't know what I just did one more time. I don't know why I keep doing that. Okay. So with our active managerial control, which is on the top of page 8.3. What I just went over was all of these pictures over here. So what I'm about to read now is at the top, these little bullet points. All right. Active managerial control, they focuses on controlling the 5 most common risk factors for foodborne illness, which is purchasing food from unsafe sources, failing to cook food adequately, holding food at incorrect temperatures, using contaminated equipment, and practicing poor personal hygiene. Active managerial control and food safety management systems go hand in hand because we're still going over those same couple of things to make sure that they don't happen. Please tell me to slow down if I'm going too fast, guys. Don't just sit there and have your phone on just because. All right. So there are many ways to achieve active managerial control in an operation. So we're talking about training programs, manager supervision, incorporation of the standard operating procedures or the SOPs. And of course, HACCP. HACCP is like the back half of what we're going to talk about. And that's we're going to try to break it apart so that you guys really can understand it. These are critical to the success of an active managerial control. If you guys could pause for 1 second, I'm going to take a quick little pause. I have to answer the phone, so give me 1 second. I do apologize for this. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Here you go. All right, sorry guys, don't kill me. So sorry, I don't even know what you guys are looking at. All right, I'm back. Very, very sorry. So, these are critical to the success of an active managerial control. So we want to monitor the critical activities in the operation, taking the necessary corrective actions when occurring, and verify the actions when taken, control the risk factors. So pretty much all of this, honestly, is the back half of HACCP. All right. All right, the FDA provides recommendations for controlling the risk factors for foodborne illnesses. So demonstration of knowledge, staff health controls, controlling the hands as a vehicle of contamination, time temperature, parameters for controlling pathogens, and consumer advisories. All right, now let's talk about the HACCP approach. This starts on 8.4, and as you can see, that's pretty much the rest of what we're going to be talking about. It like goes into detail. So everybody, y'all ready for HACCP? Let's get started. All right, the HACCP approach. HACCP is based on identifying significant biological, chemical, or physical hazards at specific points within a product's flow through the operation. Once identified, hazards can be prevented, eliminated, or reduced to safe levels. So pretty much what a HACCP plan is used for, it's used to watch the food as it goes through the restaurant to see where there's a time where the food can be contaminated and how we can eliminate those times that it can be contaminated, or either prevention or reduce the levels to make sure that everything is safe. Hey, Janet, thanks for joining us. All right, let's get into this HACCP. To be effective, HACCP system must be based on a written plan. So you have to write down what's going on. It must be specific to each facility's menu, customers, equipment, processes, and operations. And a plan that works for one operation may not work for another. So, oh, I see all the hearts. Thank you for all the love, guys. So you cannot use the same HACCP plan at one McDonald's as the other McDonald's, because of the fact that they're not dealing with the same customers and equipment and processes. Same food, but not the same thing. All right, our 7 steps to the HACCP plan, they are at the top of page 8.5. So let's get started. The first step is to conduct a hazard analysis, which means we're going to figure out what TCS food we need to be watching. Then we're going to determine the critical control points, the CCPs. Those usually are dealing with numbers for the most part. No, I'm sorry. Determining the critical control points is at what point in the flow of food is there a time where that TCS food can be contaminated? Then establishing the critical limits is only going to be numbers. So step 3 is the figuring out, okay, what are the temperatures or the times that we need to be watching. Then you want to establish monitoring procedures, meaning we want to figure out, okay, what can we do, or when can we watch, or how can we make sure to monitor what's going on. HACCP is for only TCS foods, yes. We want to establish monitoring procedures and then identify corrective actions. So after we establish, okay, these are things that could happen, these are our limits that we have, then we also want to make sure, okay, well, if it is if it's not right or something's going wrong, then these are what we can do to fix it. So that's establishing the corrective actions. Then we want to verify that the system works. That just means making sure that, okay, so if I say that the chicken has to be at 165 and the chicken's not at 165, it's at 155, and I say the corrective action that we're going to take is to make sure we put it back in till it hits 165. Then we want to just check, okay, so she said to check to make sure it's 165. If I put it back in the oven, will it get to 165? Yes. Okay, then we're good. So that's number 6. We want to verify the system works. And then number 7, establish procedures for keeping records and documentation. So pretty much we want to make sure that everything we have, all our steps are written down and that they work. And that if there is something that happens during that procedure or with that food, that we have the correct way to document it so that we can just pretty much cover our butts when it comes down to this. That didn't sound too hard, right? I didn't think so. So now we're going to get into this. So principle 1, it says conduct a hazard analysis. It says identify the potential hazards in food served by looking at how it is processed. See, Therese right here, it says identify TCS food items and determine where hazards are likely to occur for each one. You want to look for biological, chemical, and physical contaminants. Remember, we talked about that in the beginning. Well, now what we're going to do to be able to conduct the hazard analysis, we got to look for our TCS foods and then see when biologically, chemically, or physically can they become contaminated. All right, let's go to the second one, which now we are on page 8.6. Talking about our second one. All right, it says determine critical control points. So you want to find points in the process where identified hazards can be prevented, eliminated, or reduced to safe levels. And this is depending on the process. There may be more than one CCP. So let's say that we're talking about, let's keep with chicken. For some reason, I'm obsessed with chicken today. So let's keep with the chicken. So if we have chicken, we know that the times where it can be physically or chemically or biologically contaminated is when we receive it. So we want to make sure that the temperature is good when we receive it. When it's being stored, we have to make sure that we're storing it at the correct temperatures. When it's being prepared, we want to make sure that there's no chance of cross-contamination. And when it's being cooked, we got to make sure that we cook it to the right temperature. So as we just heard that the critical control points for chicken would be receiving, storing, prepping, and cooking. So it's okay that they have more than one. All right, so I said the principle number 3 is always going to be numbers. So for each CCP, you want to establish minimal or maximum limits. These limits must be met to prevent or eliminate hazards or reduce to safe levels. So our critical limit for cooking the chicken is 165. So we know that when it comes in, it needs to be at 41 degrees or lower. When we store it, we need to store it at 41 degrees or lower. And then when we cook it, we know we need to cook it to 165 or higher. So there we go. Those are our critical limits. That's what we need to know. All right, step 4, you want to establish monitoring procedures. You want to determine the best way to check the critical limits. You want to make sure that they are constantly met. So you want to identify who will monitor them and how often. So if we're going to stay with our chicken, we're going to identify that, okay, if Chris and Therese are my cooks, I'm going to say, okay, well, yes, we are going to review the day of the test. Monday, when you guys, I guess we could talk about that. Take a quick second. Monday, when you guys come in, come to me at the beginning of the day, because you guys are going to take the test, because Monday is an A day. You're going to take the test 3rd and 4th period. But 1st and 2nd, I'm going to give you guys passes so that you can come to my room. And that's what we're going to do Monday, 1st and 2nd. But anyway, we'll continue on with this. So we want to identify who's going to monitor it. So we're going to say, okay, our evening cook or whoever is cooking the chicken will be the one who is in charge of monitoring it. And how will they monitor it? By using a biostemic thermometer, which remember we said that was the basic thermometer, to check the temperature to make sure that the chicken is at 165. So you want to make sure they're constantly met. So anytime you make the chicken, you go and you put it in a record book that, okay, this is the temperature of the chicken. This is what it's supposed to be. This is what the temperature I got was. Well, the test technically only takes 2 hours, so you should be okay. Because if you come in directly at the beginning of third, you will definitely have more than enough time to do it and go to your meeting. So you'll be good. All right. So step number 5, you want to identify the corrective action. You want to identify steps that must be taken when the critical limit is not met. Determine these steps in advance. So if you'll be fine, Chris. If we are cooking this chicken and it hasn't been met, of course, a corrective step, if the chicken's at 135, is again to make sure that it's cooked to 165. It's not that hard. We just want to identify the corrective actions before anything happens. Then step 6, which we are on the top of 8.8, is you want to verify that the system works. Determine if the plan is working as intended. Then you want to evaluate the plan on a regular basis using monitoring charts, records, and hazard analysis. And then you want to determine if your plan prevents, reduces, or eliminates identified hazards. So this just means we want to check to make sure whatever it is that we put in place is going to work and it's going to continue to work for us. Because if it doesn't, that means that we need to conduct another hazard analysis to figure out, is that really the hazard that we need to be following? And lastly, we want to establish procedures for record keeping and documentation. We want to keep records for these actions of monitoring activities, corrective actions, validating equipment, checking for good working conditions. So that would be like checking for good working conditions, like making sure we calibrate our thermometers. If it is a digital thermometer, our thermistors, or thermas, as we were calling them. We want to make sure they have batteries in them, things like that. And we want to make sure that we're working with our suppliers. So for invoice specifications, etc. So if we're talking about that chicken, we want to make sure that we are, we're working with our suppliers to make sure we are getting our chicken at the correct temperature, that they are following their rules just as we have to follow ours. All right, let's keep talking about this HACCP. Okay, these specialized processing methods require a variance that may require a HACCP plan. So there are also things that require variances with a HACCP plan. And these are it. Smoking food as a method to preserve it, but not to enhance the flavor. Using food additives or components such as vinegar to preserve or alter food so it is no longer requires time and temperature control for safety, like taking cucumbers, turning them into pickles, curing food, and also custom processing of animals, like getting a deer and killing it and cutting it up in your restaurant. Also, we have packaging food using ROP. Remember, we said that's reduced oxygen packaging methods, including MAP, vacuum packed, or sous vide. Treating or pasteurizing juice on site and packaging it for later. And of course, sprouting beans or seeds. All right, so that is the end of chapter 8. I know you guys are super excited. Let me turn my camera around. Hey, I know you guys are super excited that we are done with chapters 7 and 8. Again, tomorrow, I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to be broadcasting chapters 9 and 10. Please look for the, oh, I see all your hearts. I love you guys too. Please look on YouTube for chapter 7, which is already uploaded. I'm going to upload chapter 8 right now. Tomorrow, we're going to go over 9 and 10. Again, first thing on Monday, you guys are going to come to me so that we can go ahead and go over everything that we went over, and I'll give you extra time to look at different things before we go ahead into the testing and things. So just, we want to make sure that we do, that you do look over this. If you didn't see chapter 7, then definitely go watch chapter 7. If you want to go back over chapter 8, go back over chapter 8, and then be ready for 9 and 10 tomorrow. I hope you guys had a great turkey day. I miss you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Be prepared. See ya.